There's a guitar in the corner of a room somewhere near you. Maybe it's in your home, maybe it's in your parents' basement. It's sitting there in a case, barely touched, and yet you cannot bring yourself to sell it. You bought it with real intention. You were going to learn. You were going to become someone who plays guitar. And the moment you carried it home, something strange happened. You felt like you already were. That feeling is not a character flaw. It is not laziness, and it is not stupidity. It is one of the most consistent quirks in all of human psychology, and once you understand it, you will never look at an impulse purchase the same way again. Here's what's actually happening. When you buy something, you are not just buying an object. You are buying a version of yourself. Psychologists call this identity-based consumption, and the research behind it is both fascinating and a little uncomfortable. UCLA psychologist Hal Hershfield has spent over a decade studying how we relate to our future selves, and what he found in his neuroimaging research is genuinely startling. When people were asked to think about their future self, the part of their brain that activated was the same region that activates when thinking about a stranger, not themselves. In other words, your future self, the one who will use the guitar, run the 5K, and cook gourmet meals, is neurologically someone else. And when you buy something for that future self, you are essentially buying a gift for a stranger you are hoping to one day become. That is why the purchase feels so good. You are not buying what the thing does. You are buying who you will be when you use it. The yoga mat is not a yoga mat. It is evidence that you are the kind of person who does yoga. The books stacked on your nightstand are not just books. They are a signal, to yourself and to anyone who sees them, that you are intellectually curious, that you are growing. The act of buying is, in itself, a form of identity rehearsal. And the brain rewards you for it with a hit of dopamine before you have done a single thing. But then something even stranger happens. Jonah Berger, a marketing professor at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, ran a series of experiments in which he asked people to simply imagine passing up an ordinary bottle of wine for dinner one evening. Just imagine it. What he found was that this single act of not using something made people significantly less likely to open it at any ordinary occasion afterward. The item had quietly transformed in their minds. It had become too special to use. Berger calls this the specialness spiral. The longer something sits unused, the more precious it becomes, and the more precious it becomes, the harder it is to actually touch it. So the guitar is not collecting dust because you are lazy. It is collecting dust because somewhere in your mind it has become a relic of a future you are still protecting. And this is where identity comes in, because this is not really about shopping. It is about who you believe you are versus who you actually show up as every day. The gap between those two things is exactly the size of your unused Amazon cart. Every dusty treadmill, every half-finished online course, every kitchen gadget still in the box, they are not failed purchases. They are a map of every identity you have tried on and not yet inhabited. The person who bought the meditation cushion genuinely wanted to be calmer. The person who bought the language learning software genuinely wanted to be more connected to the world. These were real desires. They were satisfied with the purchase itself rather than with the practice. What do you actually do with this? The most effective thing is surprisingly simple. Before you buy, ask yourself one specific question, not, will I use this? Because your brain, being the optimistic storyteller that it is, will almost always say yes. Ask instead, does the person I am right now, today, actually have the habits or the time or the genuine desire to use this? Not the person you want to become, the person you already are. That single shift, from aspiring self to actual self, cuts through more impulse purchases than any budget app ever will. Because here's the real truth underneath all of this. The life you want is not in the next purchase. It never was. Buying the thing is not the same as becoming the thing, and deep down, some part of you has always known that. So I want to leave you with one question worth sitting with. What is one item in your home right now that represents a version of yourself you genuinely want to become? And what would it actually take, not to buy anything new, but to just start? Tell me in the comments, because that answer will tell you more about yourself than anything you could ever put in a cart.